So, Thaddeus, what made this necessary?
What made this necessary? Well, I feel like Sincerely is not your average musical composition. Um, it's a lot of codex. It's a lot of emotional observation. It's a lot of conditional observation. Um, and it's not for your average listener. So I felt it necessary to come here, sit with you, and give everybody a backroom discussion about what Sincerely actually is and the depth of it. Because to me, it's something amazing. You know, I think to every artist, whatever you create is amazing. But this is, I'll put it to you like this: I've produced thousands of works in my time in the music industry, and spent about 10 years in the music industry. I've not found something as unique as this. I've not created something as unique as this. And honestly, I feel it necessary to let you guys know that some of the best content, such as this one that we're about to delve into sincerely, is conditions have to be just right. You know, conditions have to be just right. And a lot of the time, pain becomes a factor, breakage becomes a factor. So, this is necessary because people who want to understand but don't understand will understand by the end of this. And that's all I'll say to that.
When did you realize music alone wasn't enough?
That's a great question. And to answer that, music, I realized music wasn't enough when I got through the first three tracks. Now, I'm a very unorthodox type of artist. Like, a lot of my compositions in the past have been unstructured, you know? And I kind of piece it together based on different tracks and singles that I've built that actually, you know, portray conceptual meaning. But this is different. Sincerely is very different, and because it's so different, because it's so structured, I felt it would be more powerful to not just have music. You know, music is great. Music is a universal soul and tendency and healing and growth. But Sincerely is far deeper than just a musical composition. Um, it is an archive of exhibits that exist as single worded conditions. And each exhibit carries a very unique condition from the way that I actually portray, from the beats themselves. It's very off the beaten path of what I usually do. Um, Silence is a huge component in this. So, like, as the music is there, there's a lot of silence that shapes the contour of what Sincerely actually is. Um, so I guess after the first three exhibits that I finished is when I realized that music alone would not be enough, and that this was something far deeper, far tantalizing, far more tantalizing, and far more evolutionary than some of the work that's already out there right now. And that's around the point when I realized it. You know, three exhibits in, three exhibits in. It's that's around the time when I realized that I need to do more with this than just create music. I need to create conditions. I need to create observational fields for people to actually witness and step aside, because I know I'm not alone, in the conditions of, a salutation, inheritance of trauma, grief, and, being pushed to the limits of your externalization of individuality into being pushed into unwanted solitary confinement, right? It's unwanted, it's unwarranted, and it shouldn't have happened, but all these conditions are so much deeper, and I know that there's people out in the world that will understand it. And while it's not for everybody, conditional observation, being pushed into, quietness, it's very fascinating to me. It's very fascinating. So for sure, like by the time the third exhibit came around, by the way, it's quietly, is when I realized that this is so much bigger than just music. This is a world renowned thing, and anybody who's suffering, who has, an intellect, will appreciate this work. And that's about all I can say.
Witness all of the conditions. This what drew me closer to this real proposition. Follow intuition. Broken but I'm fixing. Broken but I'm fixing. Witness ways they move and got me seeing true intentions. After those lessons, had to back it up. Had to back it up. I can't trust a soul, try to let it go, but the depths of my pain, they still show. Deeper that we go, I'm speaking from the scars and not from the wounds. I don't like the people who did more to break me than to uplift. Knew that they was mad cause they were invisible. Didn't wanna do the work so that they were visible. Laziness they seem to do better than the work, and for what that shit worth, I'm witnessing all of these signs, all of these lies, spat to my eyes, witnessing trauma unravel. As I recover, it's always gonna be a battle. Witnessing all of my shortcomings, all their false tellings. Witnessing everything I'm meant to be, everything I'm meant to be. Yeah, I'll be the history. Witnessing, witnessing. I'm witnessing the world grow colder by the minute. I'm witnessing stunts in my growth, it's sickening. Flawed, but I'll never be fickle. I got thick skin, lot of people switch their positions. Left me out to dry like clothing pins, like I was drenched in blood. And that's because I was, and I am. As sweat and the tears, let go of some fears. Is it clear? How you see that things appear? When the pain is too much, it may break everything that I wanna rearrange out of place. Feelings on the surface, but inside, yeah, I know it's really worth it. The brain could be deceiving. I used to be the one who always be believing in everyone. Gave all my energy till I had zero. Seen them walk away when I couldn't give them the Neros. And now I'm not the hero. Of course I am the villain. I couldn't say yes to everyone who's using me. Then they seem to forget all the times that Thaddeous looked out for we. We see him as the enemy, but really he was there for me. I don't want to admit it, cause I got pride and jealousy. And they ain't gotta say shit, their actions said it loud enough for me. As I'm witnessing all of these signs, all of these lies, spat into my eyes, witnessing trauma unravel. As I recover, I journey through a battle, witnessing all of my shortcomings, all of their false tellings, witnessing everything I'm meant to be. Leadership. Was sincerely built, or was it more of something that revealed itself?
Sincerely definitely was built. But before it was actually built, it did reveal itself to me. That's a great question. Sincerely while it is a structured archive of 11 exhibits, it is definitely something I had already been working on prior. Believe it or not, the concept of Sincerely was actually a whole different concept last year. I'm not going to get into that, but I will say this. From where Sincerely stood last year to where it is now is completely day and night from what I was working on previously to what Sincerely is today. And I'm very happy about that because it shows the growth in my artistry. But for sure, like, it definitely revealed itself to me around the tail end of coming to isolation in November last year and being just with myself. Because I've always been a person that, like, I love society. I want to help uplift society, and I took a lot of, I absorbed a lot of pain. I absorbed a lot of distrust. I absorbed a lot of betrayal. I witnessed a lot of betrayal, you know, and it forced me into stillness. So probably at like the second week of, you know, I lost my fucking mind, ever loving mind. I lost my ever loving mind, man. I just because I'm one with the people and I'm one with nature and I'm one with society. So like that's like really my conditioning. So I was forced to actually remold myself in the beginning of this, and I almost fucking went off the deep end because of it, but I didn't. And that's exactly why, in the point in time where Sincerely truly revealed itself to me from the true point of what Sincerely should be, for sure.
What were you trying to escape when you started this?
I wouldn't say I was actually trying to escape anything. I was mad. I was mad due to circumstances. And they were very major circumstances. So I wouldn't say that I was trying to escape anything. If anything, I was trying to fight. 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 I just wanted to rock everybody's world. I just wanted to rage rap. And for me, for Thaddeous, that just doesn't work. So I again, I wasn't escaping. I wanted clarity more than anything. Like, I really wanted to understand, like, why these things happen. Like, why is this happening to me? Like, why are all these people that, you know, I grew up with, people that I thought were solid and, like, they just take me for this ride down trauma lane and give me conditions and hit me with, you know, some foul shit that I've never even dealt with from some of my family who's done me dirty. So it was a lot, and I needed clarity before I was on the verge of self destruction for sure. So now that I'm here, it's amazing because I was not trying to escape anything. I needed clarity, and I wanted some type of resolution to come from the searching that I've done in this time and creating this archive and this beautiful 11-piece exhibit. I wanted clarity. I wasn't trying to escape anything because escape isn't my first plan. You know, I seek clarity first at this point in my life, and that's really what I yearned for. So, and I feel like I got it.
What part of you does this archive actually come from?
It comes from a different version of me for sure. Like, this is almost like I've just now beginning to meet myself and understand Thaddeous. Like, I think that's the most fascinating thing about Sincerely, and this structure, it comes from a point of a part of me that I didn't actually know existed. To be honest, I've usually been the type of person that's like, yeah, yeah, always yes, always what can I do to help. And when I endured what I endured last year, it put me in a frame of mind where it shifted my entire metacognition. And I know it sounds crazy to say, but it's definitely true. Because the way that I perceive life today is so much different and so much more grounded, so much more analytical, so much more profound than before Sincerely existed in the context that it does. So, to clarify, the part of me, so this specific archive and composition is a part of Thaddeous in a way that nobody's ever seen before. It's totally unique to its caliber. And to me, that's what makes music is being able to separate yourself in a sea of people with something that's intentional, something that's meaningful, even if only you're the one who sees it at that current point in time. And that's exactly where I'm at, you know. Sincerely came from a point of me being done with not getting clarity, not understanding who I am, not understanding the prospects around me, not understanding. I got tired of it. So Thaddeous morphed into something that I didn't even know existed, but must have been laid dormant for many years, because now that I'm here, it's, whew, I never thought I would be so quiet in my life. Let's put it like that.
Why structure it as exhibits and not just songs?
Yeah, so I structured it as exhibits because it's deeper than just a musical album. It's not an album. And I would never refer to it as such. Even my homie, when I be talking to him, and it's so funny because he'll tell me, he'll be like I'll slip up and I'll call him records, and he'll be like, they're exhibits. I appreciate that, bro. Because in reality, Sincerely is not an album. At least not in the sense that most music listeners would actually consume it. Sincerely is an audio-visual documentary archive of my conditions and observances of my conditions before, during, and after the events that led up to why we're here, and why Sincerely was made. So it wouldn't feel right if I just structured it as an actual album. It wouldn't fit the theme. It wouldn't fit exactly what I wanted to portray. And I feel like if you don't know what you want to portray, then the world doesn't know what you're trying to portray. And I knew exactly where I wanted fans and I wanted people, just society in general, to be able to consume this. And it's not for every listener. It's not for every listener. And it is depthful. And it is slower than your average composition. But across 11 exhibits, you'll find something truly beautiful, truly immaculate, especially if you're a person of intellectualism and intellectual hip-hop, and you're into, concept music. This is definitely something that the moment you step into it, automatically captured. You're automatically going to understand, at least for the most part, So the exhibits themselves are very important. Very important. Like I said, exhibits. When I structured them as exhibits, I wanted it to be more administrative, archival. I'm a huge fan of the Akkadian Empire, Sumerian Empire, and big fan of like Roman numerals. And I feel like there's not been an artist yet that's actually documented their grief, their pain, their betrayal in a conditional format where it's displayed as exhibits. So I found that to be one totally unique prospect of how to actually structure a compositional archive, and two, it fit. It fit the structure of what I was trying to accomplish, and because it fit the structure, I knew that I actually couldn't land sincerely without it, for sure.
Tell me, Thaddeus, what would be lost if this was experienced normally?
There's a lot that's missed. Um, there's a ton that's missed if somebody actually experiences this like a normal album, because it's not a normal album. It's not. I don't even call it an album. So uh, there's a lot of conditioning in there. There's a lot of. I'll put it to you like this: there's no specific people, places, and things. So you really have to listen to the context in which I'm actually portraying to you about my conditions. And I know the conditions that I lived through last year. There are millions of people in this world that can relate to those conditions. Um, so if you listen to it like an average album, you're gonna say it's garbage, for sure. You're gonna say it's garbage, right? Because you don't understand it, and you're not. That's not what you're looking for. You're not looking for clarity. You're probably searching for some type of party music. You're searching for um, love music, whatever. This is none of that. So the average listener, if you decide to take a step into this world, you cannot do it from a perspective where you're just looking for entertainment, because it's deeper than entertainment. It's engagement. It's realization. It's I have to understand myself before I self-destruct. And as you progress throughout the exhibits, you start to come in with me and start to gain clarity. And clarity is very important. When you have clarity on specifically yourself and the situations in which you actually endured, and it breaks you down and it molds you and it helps you mold what I've created, that's when it becomes an abnormal experience. It's not your average album. It's not even an album. It's an archive, right? It's an archive. So I genuinely feel that if you decide to listen to sincerely should not be consumed. I promise you, you will call it trash. I already know. I created it, so I would know. And I'm telling you, if you're a person that is at that point in time just seeking for light music, this is too heavy for you. You can't experience sincerely in its normal in a normal sense. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. But a lot would be lost. The value of it would diminish greatly. So, and that's exactly why I say this is something that should be viewed with measured intent. Measured intent is what I like to call it. It's a perfect statement to use for sincerely, I feel like.
Now, next, I want you to let the audience and everyone know at home and anybody who ever watches this video, who is this not for?
So I know we touched on it already earlier. in the previous question, but for sure, who is this not for? So this is definitely not for somebody who is a very light listener, somebody who needs to hear soft, supple music. This is not for somebody who wants to go out and party with it. This archive is not for somebody who likes a lot of banging, a lot of loud noise, somebody who can't take silence from one precursor to the next in a song. It's not a vibe. It's internalized structuring. So it's a very small niche in comparison to hip hop this day and age. But it's necessary. It's wholly necessary. So if you're somebody who is an intellectual, who enjoys artists like Kendrick Lamar, Absol, even J. Cole, when you start getting, but again, I feel like it's also deeper than them as well, and I don't say that to be facetious or anything, because I love Kendrick, Kendrick's truly an inspiration to me, but it's not for a lot of people, that's for sure. Sincerely is not for a lot of people, and if you're one of the select few that are fortunate enough to understand and comprehend what I discuss with you in there, and you take something from it, I'm happy. I'm happy because a lot of people won't understand this. They won't understand the structure. They won't understand what it means. They're gonna think it's garbage because the majority of the world is very surface level, and that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people live in the moment, and some of us think 50 years in the future. So, yeah, that's pretty much who it's not for. You don't want to listen to this if you're a party animal. You don't want to listen to this if you're like somebody who's out fucking an athlete or something like that. It's definitely it's gonna change the way that you think, in a good way, and at least in my opinion. So, yeah.
What does entry actually mean in your system?
So, entry in the system means your entry point. Exactly what you hear is exactly what it is. It's nothing fancy. And by system, you're referring to Thaddeous.com/sincerely, I'm assuming. So, I didn't want people to feel like I was selling them something, because I'm not selling anything. I'm not selling anything. I'm dropping my conditional basis and understanding and exhibits into the void, because I was in so much pain that sincerely was one of those things where I put it out into the world and I leave it where it is and I let it fill the void. So it's one of those things where I didn't want people to feel like I was selling them music. I want them to know that this is an experience. And just like different experiences, there's always doors that you have to walk through. There's always entry points to starting whatever it is that you want, And for any viewer who's truly that interested and does take the time to go to Thaddeous.com/sincerely, your entry point is important. It's important to me, specifically, because that means that you cared enough to want to understand the concept of what I've actually brought to the table, which again, in my opinion, in my perspective, is light years ahead of the competition when it comes to something that's intentional, something that's sustenance driven, something that's restrained while being a defining factor of growth, you know, and that's something that you don't get in normal albums this day and age, I feel. So for sure, the entry to the system is your entry point to understanding my conditions, to understanding what I endured, without actually hearing the people, places, and things. Because let's be clear, when you're referencing people, places, and things in your traumatic musical progression, you know, it makes it feel far more personal, but not in a good way, right? Not in a good way. It makes it feel like you're nitpicking at people, and I also didn't want to give my predecessors the ability to have any type of connection to this. It's just me. It's just Thaddeous, and this is who I am. This is what I endured, you know. But you don't need to know who these people are. You don't need to know the places, you just need to know. You need to understand the conditions, and you need to understand me from a perspective of, I used to bleed my heart out, and I don't no more. You know, and I'm grateful for that. You know, I'm grateful for that. I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't made Sincerely. So, for sure.
What does the listener become once they understand it? Once they understand Sincerely, what does the listener truly become?
So I can't really tell you who the listener would become, but I can tell you who I've become, and I think it's one of the things that, you know, it's most important about this, that you guys understand. But before I do that, I'll tell you my hope for the listener. My hope for any listener who plays Sincerely all the way through is that if you're dealing with something, and there's been a lifelong systemic pattern of trauma in your family, you specifically dealing with a lot of things that you necessarily can't control, or, you know, people in your corner that you thought, like, no matter what you're going through, when you listen to Sincerely, my goal for you is processing through that without having to acknowledge the horrid people, places, and things, and progress through each exhibit with a little bit more understanding about each thing that you've dealt with, or each condition that you're listening to at that point in time of an exhibit, and come to the conclusion by the end of it, by exhibit 11. The goal is to have you understand that, one, just because we get clarity doesn't mean that we're going to have resolution, and two, it's okay to not have resolution, because as long as you have the clarity, you know where people stand, and you know where conditions stand, and you know where the experience stands, that's where you grow. Growth doesn't come from pushing your way through life. Growth comes from the painful pitfalls, and growth comes from acknowledging those painful pitfalls and being able to sit there and say, okay, I have clarity. This person, place, or thing, I may never get any resolution, but at least I have clarity. Because as long as I have clarity, I know how that person is going to operate. I know how to act or not to act next time. I know how to be or not to be. And by the end of Sincerely, I hope and pray that each individual that listens finds just another piece of themselves, a stronger version of themselves, a more enlightened version of themselves. That's what I hope for the listener to gain by the time they finish each exhibit.
Quietly, I move through life, I got some animosity. Quietly, I watch my pain on myself and swallow me. Quietly, I digress with no apologies. Quietly, I build back, respect and honoring me. Quietly, I push back on political theology. Quietly, I submerge with demons pushing under me. Quietly, I let go of any love for me.